Hello everyone and welcome back to the 3T Path channel. My name is Giridhari and today I want to talk to you about one of the most difficult to understand activities of Krishna, which is the fact that he married over 16,000 women, and this is used by people who don't understand anything about the topic to criticize Krishna, to criticize Hinduism in general, to criticize the whole concept of devotion and bhakti yoga. So this is grossly misunderstood. So the topic today is how to understand that correctly. I'm going to explain to you a bit of philosophy to get going, because you need to understand a little bit of the concept, the actual story, and at the end I'll tell you how the reason he married this 16,000 is the opposite of what people think it is. It's the opposite reason, and what they used to criticize Krishna for doing that is actually, you'll see that it's actually a positive thing. So, first of all, it's so important. You can't even talk about Krishna if you don't understand the concept. The concept is Krishna is God. I mean, you don't have to accept, you don't have to believe it, but at least you have to understand what the concept is within which the story is being presented. So the story is being presented in the concept that God is coming down to earth to show himself to a world that had forgotten the concept of God. This is way before Judaism, way before, of course, Christianity and Islam. So the world had forgotten about God. Think about your education when you studied about the Greeks and the Romans, and they had all these demigods, but they had no concept of a supreme, everlasting, omnipotent Lord, like the concept of God, which you now understand pretty easily because it's so common these days. It was unheard of, it was forgotten, and this is one of the main topics of Krishna's coming, that he came here to reintroduce the concept of God, to present himself again to planet Earth had forgotten him. So God is coming down in person. So Krishna is not just a guy, just some dude or even some nice guru. He's actually supposed to be, he's God. I mean, he's presented as God. And what people don't understand as well is that in this concept of God, wonderful concept of God in the Christian tradition, that you can relate with God in different types of love, different types of relationships. It's not just about awe and devotion and, oh, great, powerful Lord. It's not just that one kind of devotion which you see more commonly in the Christian, Judaic, and Islamic faiths. It's not just that kind of, oh, great, supreme Lord, I bow before thee. Not that kind of thing, but also that you can relate with Krishna in an intimate, personal, loving relationship. This is a wonderful thing, a wonderful special contribution of the Krishna tradition, that we learn about the different, it's called rasas in Sanskrit, the different ways you can relate to God. And one of these ways is the intimate romantic relationship. You can have an intimate, loving relationship in this romantic humor, romantic rasa of being married. So now, having done that little bit of philosophy, I hope you've survived to this point. Let's talk a little bit about the actual story. So the story is this great, powerful demon called Brahma. He had taken stronghold, he had created a stronghold somewhere in East India. And this guy was super powerful. I mean, the Avengers couldn't deal with him. He had stolen from Indra, who was, Thor in the Avengers. Thor is Indra in the Vedic tradition. Same person, just different name, Indra. So he had stolen from Thor. None of the Devas could do anything about him. He was completely super powerful, this super villain. Nobody could deal with him. So they say, Krishna, look, it's just up to you now, because this guy is completely out of control. And this guy had created this superpower fort, with like magical coverings, like Doctor Strange kind of stuff. He had like magical protection, he had real protection, he had all sorts of layers and stuff. It was just like completely impenetrable fortress he had prepared for himself, right? And he had done lots of bad things. Again, he had stolen from Indra, and he had also kidnapped over 16,000 young maidens, princesses from these little small kings all over the world. He had stolen all the princesses from all these kings. And he was keeping them prisoner for God knows what reason, but he had stolen, so he had kidnapped all these little, these young women, these princesses from little kings and stuff, from big kings, small kings, but it's over 16,000, and he was keeping them there as well. So anyway, Krishna comes along, and there's very exciting. He actually comes with one of his wives, and he comes, just him and his, one of his wives, and he comes and he just destroys everything. He kills, his armies. He takes care of them like it's a big hero. It's Krishna. He's showing he's God. Just single-handedly, just wipes out the whole thing, all the defenses, the armies, the people, the weaponry, everything, just single-handedly. So he's God. He's Krishna, does these wonderful feats while he was here. So he does these wonderful feats, destroys everything, gets rid of him. And then, okay, here gets to the part now. He gets there, and there's these 16,000 young males. So it says in the Bhagavatam about 16,000, and in the Vishnu Purana it says 16,100. So in general, it's understood 16,100 wives. So 16,100 maidens. But when they see him, they weren't, of course, just average, normal people. These were special souls. Everybody who was there with Krishna at this time, these were special souls, yogis from past lives, who had, gotten to this position of being able to be face to face with the Supreme Lord. Of course, you don't just get that randomly. You get that out of, just lifetimes of devotion, of yoga practice. So these 16,100 maidens were actually highly advanced spiritualists, top-notch, life after life spiritual. But they were spiritualists in the mode of rasa, in the loving mood. So they had a loving relationship, a conjugal loving relationship with God, with Krishna. And when they see him, it just, fires their devotion, just snaps into action. And they all just say, in their hearts, they're just praying to Krishna, please take me as your wife. They're just total love. And of course, Krishna, being God, perceives that, picks that up. And here's the catch. This is the world is always a bit, the world is sexist. The world's always been sexist, and at this time, 5,000 years ago, there was this thing where if a woman had been with any other man, nobody wanted to marry her. She was just like, oh yeah, you're just going to become a prostitute now. It was really horrible like that. It was just like, you just have to be with just your father, your family, and then you get married, and then okay. But you couldn't be a woman in touch with any other guy. You couldn't like these days, you couldn't be dating. Okay, now I'm going to marry you. No, in those days, forget about it, and so these women had been kidnapped by this guy, Doesn't matter if he never even touched them. It's just a question of principle. They were taken by him. So nobody would marry them. So nobody would marry. They would actually have their life, silly, it's stupid, but it's the way the world was. Horrible things happen. So in those days, nobody would have taken them. They wouldn't have been able to marry anyone. So Krishna not only sees, of course, their devotion, as God seen the devotion of his disciples, but he knows that if he doesn't marry them, nobody will, and their lives will be ruined unfairly. So then he marries them, he accepts their proposal to marry him, to save them from a horrible life of ridicule. So that's why he marries 16,100 wives in one go, and he had 8 other wives. So that's 16,108 wives. But the difference is, to show he's God as well, he built for each and every one of them a giant mansion. And what's better, every day he would divide himself into 16,180. He would multiply himself, not divide, the word is multiply. He would multiply himself into 16,108 Krishnas and spend every night with every one of them. So it wasn't a question of just some crazy nonsense harem. No, it's nothing like that at all. It's actually a multiple monogamous relationship. Like because he's God, he can expand himself unlimitedly. So he was expanding himself 16,108 every day, and through each one of them gave everything, house, man, not just a house, a mansion, a palace, each one of them, because he's God again, unlimitedly. So people misunderstand this a lot. It's a show of power. It's a typical thing. Krishna, one of the, it's like it's called Leela, the type of special divine activity Krishna realized during his stay here 5,000 years ago to prove that he's God, to show what God is like, to show his nature, his quality, and to show how you as a devotee, how how different souls can relate to him differently, including in this rasa of conjugal love. So I hope this makes it more clear. And if you have any questions, leave your comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I really appreciate that if you could do that for me. So thank you very much, and have the rest of your day with lots of peace and lots of love.